Hey everybody, this is Mike from Blinking Things. I just wanted to give you guys a tutorial on how to use the Pixel Mapulator web app that I've made that helps build pixel maps for LED walls, projection, and other video projects. So, if you go to blinkingthings.com in any web browser, this is the screen that you'll be greeted with. And right now we just have some default tile and wall settings in there as kind of an example, but we'll go ahead and customize it for something that we want exactly. So I would start at the size options and go down to map size, and this is where you're going to put in the number of tiles wide by the number of tiles high that you want your LED wall to be. So we'll go with 10 by 3 for this example. So now we have 10 tiles wide by 3 high. We'll go ahead and change the tile size. You can just type in any value that you want here. So you wanted to make this 256 tall, you just type it in and it makes the change for you right there. And you can swap them back and forth with this little button. Also, something new in this version of the Pixel Mapulator is this database of tile information. This has been the most popular request by people that are actually using this out in the field. They don't want to have to memorize how many pixels wide or high any given tile is, and we work with so many of them out there on the job site that it makes sense to just kind of have a database with all that information ready to go. So you can just like swing in here, say I'm working with a row carbon 5 tile, and bam, there it is, 104 by 208. I would love to get some feedback on what kind of tiles you would like included in this information, because right now I generally just have the tiles that I'm used to working with, and I need to get more feedback from people who are actually using this tool so that I can make it a better tool for you. So there we go. We've got our 10 tiles wide, 3 tiles high, 104 by 208 because it's a row carbon 5. Processor limits, I'm going to go ahead and take the processor limits off right now, and we'll come back to that and explain it in a second. And output resolution. So output resolution, if you look down at the bottom of the actual pixel map, it says that the resolution of the pixel map is 1040 by 624. So this image is going to be set within a larger image that you eventually plug into your media server or wherever your content is being pushed out from. And generally, you're not going to use the exact pixel count of the wall or whatever your content size is. You're going to want a bigger map that the outside map, the dimensions match whatever the output of the video signal from your media server or from your content sources. And then within that larger output is going to be your actual pixel map that you're going to sample your content from. And the output resolution setting right here, this is going to determine what that overall output image size is. And a better way to illustrate this is it's set to 1920 by 1080. Right now, that's a great option for our example. We'll go over to experimental options and view options. And this is how you'd kind of change what the pixel map is placed within. So right now, we're going to draw it within that output. And hopefully, this kind of makes sense. Now we see that our pixel map here is 1040 by 624, and it is placed within a larger output. And this black area, the output is going to be whatever size is set over here in the output resolution. So it's 1920 by 1080 right now. We could make that smaller, 1280 by 720. So that means that our pixel map could still fit within a 1280 by 720 raster, I guess. And I'm going to switch that back to 1920 by 1080 for now. But I do have different options. Like here's a 4K output if you wanted it, but that's not necessary. So here we are with 1920 by 1080. Within this output view, we can kind of offset the map if we want to. So that's what these X and Y offsets are for. Say we wanted to offset at 50 pixels. There you go. It's an offset 50 by 50. And then in your LED processor, you would just set your starting pixel as 50/50 within this output. So that's the idea behind the output. I'm going to turn that off for now. Let's see. Let's look at our color options. So we have our LED tiles out here. We can change the colors that they are. Right now, we're only working with tiles 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are a subset of tiles for showing alternate processor outputs, but we're not really there yet. So we'll go to colors. Here I'm using Google Chrome, and these inputs get these really nice color pickers in Google Chrome. I know it's not like that in every other browser. Eventually, I will implement my own color picker in the website that'll be embedded, and it'll work across all platforms. But for now, I'm depending on the Chrome one. Otherwise, you're just typing in hex color codes in these, which it's easy to find the hex color codes online if you just do a little bit of searching. Anyhow, yeah, so we have the freedom to change these colors to whatever we want them to be. So we just change the tile colors. We can change the text color, like the coordinates that are written out here, 1A, 1B, 1C, and all that. We can change that if we want. Put that back to white for now. We can change the border colors that we see. I guess that's a good point to bring up. The border colors, yes, we can change them, but also we should just look at the border colors themselves, or the border size. Right now, if you go to size options, graphic overlays, borders, and show tile border, you can turn the border on and off. I really like being able to see a 1 pixel border around each individual LED tile that I'm working with on the job site. It just helps define the boundaries in between the LED tiles as you're building. And so I like leaving that on. You have the option to change this to whatever you want. You can make it 10 pixels wide if you wanted. And we'll leave that at 1 for now. I could turn that off. I can also turn on a map wide border. So this turns on this green border going around the outside of the entire pixel map. Right now that's set to 5. Again, it's flexible. You can set it to whatever you want. I'm going to turn that off for now and turn the tile border back on. Let's see, coordinates. You can turn the coordinates on and off. You can have the character that separates the two coordinates change. Right now it's a period. You can make it an X or a comma or whatever you want. You could type in a phrase if you wanted to. We'll leave that as a period for now. You also have the option to change the style of the coordinates. So right now it's a numeric number first, then an alphabetic character afterwards. You can swap that. So they're letters first, then numbers. You can use just numbers or just letters if you want. So those are the different coordinate options. For test patterns, let's see. We have a geometry scaling card. I don't know that that's the actual right word to use for it, but this is what it is. It puts up a circle that should be a perfect circle that won't ever be any taller than the map is tall or wider than the map is wide. And it also has these kind of diagonal crosshairs that meet up on center of the wall. And this at a glance will help you tell if things are scaled incorrectly or not. Same with the every other pixel off. Essentially, it's turning every other pixel black or turning it off. And I was on a job site once where somebody did this for their pixel map, and they said that it helped them see immediately whether or not things were scaled correctly or not, because they could just look at the wall and see that every other pixel was on and off. That's not something that I really do, but again, it was a feature that I wanted to put in there because I know that some LED wall techs and video guys out there are doing that. So that option is there for you. We'll turn it off for now though. Under text fields, right now we have the specifications text field up, and it just gives you some information about the LED wall, but you may want to turn that off if you're actually displaying this image up on the wall and you don't want your client to have to see all this weird technical information. So you can turn that off. You can also put up a user-defined text field and give this LED wall a name. But we'll take that off for now. Custom logo. You can upload a custom logo if you like. I'm not going to choose a file because this is my logo right there, and that's great for me. But you can turn that off. I think that covers everything in the graphic overlays. Color options, we've pretty much got that. Well, I guess I didn't say, for the user-defined fields, you can go back and change the color of them. So text field colors, user text. There you go. We're changing the colors, the background color. I'm trying to just give you as much flexibility as you can so that this tool can be used to generate whatever style pixel map you want. So I'm trying to add in a lot of flexibility and options that might not necessarily end up being useful, but for now I'm just throwing all sorts of options in there. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this to default. Get my tile size back to 10 by 3 and get my tile size back to the carbon 5. So here we are, carbon 5. So that's more or less where we're working with. Now we're going to look at the processor limits. So before we just were considering this pixel map as one sort of image, but we need to break it down with a little bit further separation so that you can see the different sections of the wall that will be controlled by different ports on your LED processor. Right now, let's see, 76, I'm just going to kind of do some guesswork. So our tiles are 104 high, or sorry, 104 wide, and we want to limit this to 5 tiles. So that's going to be, what, 520? Something like that? Yeah, so that should split the wall in half. So essentially, what this limits is the separation in between the red and blue section and the yellow and green section. Those are considered 2 different processor ports. And a way that we can visualize that a lot better is by going to experimental options, signal flow, and show signal flow. Now what this is going to do is give you these nice arrows that kind of give you a guideline for how you're going to wire your LED wall. The numbers surrounded by a circle are the first tile that will receive a data from any given data chain. So number 1 here, that is the first tile from processor port 1. Number 2 is the first tile in the chain from processor port 2. And then you just follow the arrows down, and there are common zigzag patterns that you can choose between. So these buttons under signal flow kind of show you the different data directions that you can choose. That's all that. We'll set it back to the default. If we went back to the processor limits and made these processor sections even smaller, you can see that this will automatically add in however many processors that we need to complete the size of the LED wall that we have. These restraints aren't based on any specs off of actual gear in the real world, so you're free to kind of manipulate this as you choose. I'll leave it like this. So we have 2 processors to cover each half of the wall. I think that covers signal flow. For view options, we've already looked at the draw map within output section, but we should look at the print view. What I wanted to do for print view, here, and I'll just click it and show you. It looks very similar to the output option, but the print view isn't meant to, it's not meant to show what one output out of your media server or content machine would look like. This is more or less to make a plot or like a printout for your crew on site. And if your LED wall pixel map is bigger than the size of one output, this will ignore that, take as many outputs as needed, and put it all on one piece of paper. So just to illustrate this real quick, I will make this 20 tiles wide. And in theory, this should be bigger than one output now. If I go take off print view, we've got our map. That's great. Draw it within an output. And now you can see all the way on the right-hand side here, we're getting cut off. Like the 4th processor, you're only seeing a little bit of that tile. And that's because that output isn't wide enough to accommodate the size of the entire LED wall. It would take multiple outputs, like multiple 1080p outputs for this size. But in the print view, you get the entire thing. And that's so that you can print out a printout, like a plot, a paper plot of the entire LED wall. I also have this button right here, and there you go. It centers the map on the print. So now if you were to download this image, you could just, I think that it should be, the aspect ratio is the same as like a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And that should hold true as you print out larger plots. But yes, this is there so that you can print out a paper version of this and hand it to people on site. So that's view options. Mouse over zoom. Let me take off the paper view because this doesn't really work otherwise. Mouse over zoom. This is like a little a box that kind of gives you a pixel perfect view of, like it's a zoomed in view of what the LED wall will look like. And it's kind of a way, I put this in as a tool for me as I was coding this to verify that, like, on a pixel by pixel basis, the things that I thought were happening were actually happening. Oh man, it's kind of hard to see, but right here's an okay spot to look at. You can see the red tile above with its one black pixel border on the left. There's two black pixels in between the red and the blue, and then you can see the blue tile starting it below. This isn't something that I think anybody's actually going to use, but it's kind of a neat way to verify that things are actually pixel perfect. Let's see. Lastly, I have these presets. They aren't 100% functional. That's why they're in the experimental options section. But I wanted to make some presets for common styles of pixel map, I guess, as I find out what those are. And I'll just click through these and show you. Here's black and white. It makes everything black and white. Color, it goes back to color. A single processor output, that changes the processor limits, and multi-processor output switches it back to multiprocessor. And this is just kind of a quick way to illustrate, I think, the different options that you have without going through and clicking everything individually. So anyhow, lastly, I guess, to download the actual pixel map that you're going to use, this is the download section. And by default, when you select a tile out of the tile library, it names it based on that information, but you don't need to leave that in here. You can name it LED wall for a big project, and then hit download, and you'll get your pixel map. But I think that covers most of the options. This fit to screen button, it just switches in between you being able to see the entire LED wall within your browser's window versus looking at the actual size. And then reset defaults, it resets the defaults, and there you go. Up here, there's a help button that kind of explains everything that I just explained to you in text. It has some licensing info and some donating options if you guys would like to donate via whatever, PayPal or any of the common cryptocurrencies that are out right now. And that's the help section. So there you go. That's a look at the Pixel Mapulator. I would love for you guys to go check it out and use it on your projects. I like getting pictures back of seeing LED walls being built with these pixel maps being displayed. It's really cool to see this tool being used out in the real world. So if you do that, go ahead and send that over to me. I'm at Blinking Things on Instagram, or blinkingthings@gmail.com if you want to email me the picture. But I love getting those pictures or any feedback at all about this tool, because it turns out it's something sort of useful that a lot of people out in the industry are using. And I know there's a lot of other products out there, like different programs that do the same thing. I'm doing this as sort of an experiment to teach me how to code and build a web app. It's been really gratifying in that direction, but also I see that other people, like there's a decent amount of people out there that are using this app, and they're using it over some of the other options that are out there. And I would like to kind of expand on this project and find out why people like it and make it the best tool that people can use. Yeah. So I guess that concludes this little tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.